we had all of these storm clouds rolling in. Yeah, I just rock up at the crag and I introduce myself, I say hi, and it does help for the angles of how you would shoot something.
And so what sort of skills do you think you then needed to learn and adapt in your climbing to then be able to be a photographer on the rock? Welcome to the conversation. My name is Tom, your host, and this is a podcast all about being in the outdoors, adventures, activities, talking to people that are already doing these things and how beginners can get involved within the space. Today, I'm joined by Claire Williams.
Hello.
Claire is a climbing photographer, a climber, and editor for Vertical Life magazine.
Yep.
And Vertical Life magazine is the largest climbing magazine?
Well, realistically, it's the only one.
It's the only one?
Yeah, I mean, Wild magazine does a little bit of climbing content, but overall, Vertical Life is specifically for climbing.
Wow. You hold the niche down with that.
Yep. Yeah, we're the leading climbing magazine, so.
The leading climbing magazine is pretty good claim.
Yep.
And if someone, Claire, was to ask you, what do you do? Is there a story that I guess comes to mind on explaining who you are and what you do?
I suppose it depends on like where I am that day. So some days I'm a climbing photographer and I'm hanging off a rope and I'm shooting a climber up on a wall. And then other days I'm sitting in my van editing stories or talking to the community and getting the stories. So some days I'm an editor, sometimes I'm a climbing photographer. I suppose I wear a lot of different hats and it kind of changes from day to day. But overall, I guess I'm a climbing photographer who's also the editor of a climbing magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a climber in between that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a great climber.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a hit in the last couple of years and stuff. I went from like really what I thought was quite good, and then I've been humbled a fair bit lately. So
is that spending more time in crags, finding people?
Yeah, I think I talk about climbing more than I actually do the climbing now. But yeah, I do try and get out on rock as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're here at Frog Buttress today.
Yes.
And so you've spent a bit of time on the rocks out here?
I have. It's surprising. Like I spent pretty much 6 months at Arapiles this year, and I've done more climbing in the 1 month at Frog than I did in 6 months at Arapiles. And I think the reasoning behind that is that one, it's a new location, so I'm super psyched to be here. But also like the dropping down into the crag, it's just so much easier. Like you just do a quick walk in and then all of a sudden you're there, and then you have to do the hard bit of hauling your body back out at the end of the day. Whereas at Arapiles, you're kind of looking up at the cliffs and you're like, oh, I have to get all the way up there to start. And so maybe it's a bit of a lack of motivation some days. But yeah, also it's warmer here, so I'm more motivated when it's a bit warmer.
Yeah, and at the moment it's winter, so cooler in the morning to get out there so you can go and warm up, and
absolutely
that walk-in's probably all right.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And so talk to us, I guess, about how you began your journey outdoors.
I think like throughout my like early adult years, like I was really into like hiking, especially like going and finding waterfalls, photographing them, and that was kind of where my passion was. Throughout like my young teen years, I did like birthday parties at the climbing gym, and I really did enjoy that, but I never really found a tribe or anything to kind of get into that outdoors until 2020. And then that's sort of where that all sort of changed for me. And once I started getting into climbing, it just became an addiction. And now here I am 6 years later, and I've completely transformed my life into the climbing dirtbag world.
And I mean, like you mentioned, you didn't really find people. Do you think that's one of the biggest things that actually then got you into the outdoors more, is like finding people that you could climb with and then they could teach you skills?
Absolutely. I think the biggest barrier for a lot of people is that they want to try this sport, but then they've got all of their group of friends that are all into their Sunday brunches and like maybe less adventurous sort of hobbies, and to try and find the right kind of people, it's not easy. But yeah, once you kind of break that barrier and you start to meet people, it becomes a lot easier. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's such a shared experience, right? Like I had friends, I'd be like, hey, do you want to go hiking? Nah. Oh, okay, I'll go by myself.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
Hiking's one that you obviously can do. Climbing's not really
a
solo sport.
Well, not when you're first starting out, I would say. Like when you're first starting out, you kind of want to learn the skill set. You want to be going out with someone more experienced than yourself. and then learn the skills before you would go into top rope soloing or lead rope soloing or anything like that. So it's sort of like that's sort of something you do later on usually.
So that is possibilities for people that could go out by themselves and do that.
They could, but I wouldn't recommend it straight off the bat.
A few extra skills.
There's kind of like a learning curve in order to do all of that sort of stuff, and you kind of want to do your apprenticeship first.
Yeah. And I mean, rock climbing is it's becoming a much more popular sport. Are you seeing that? Like, as you've been traveling through the last 5 years climbing, are you seeing that crags are getting busier and more people talking about it?
Yeah, they're certainly getting busier. And there are a lot more beginners now getting outdoors, which is great to see that people are getting outdoors and really starting to get into the sport. I think the biggest concern is sometimes when you see people who are maybe trying to advance a little bit quicker than they should and not necessarily taking the steps that maybe should be taken before leading into a climb or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I'm a very average climber, but I think there is so much that is required for the different skills, from the rope skills, the technical ability to actually be on the rock. And then you can take it from, indoor climbing, outdoor climbing, leading and multi-pitch, and then big wall climbing.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a progression line. Do you have further plans for yourself to keep going, or have you done big wall climbing or anything like that?
No, I haven't done really any big wall climbing. I've done multi-pitching, which I absolutely love, and I'm predominantly a trad climber. I don't do a huge amount of leading. I basically kind of did my apprenticeship where I was following up for about 3 years as a second before stepping into leading. And with that, I also did a learn to lead trad course. I did a rope rescue course. And before I was really placing gear and doing the leading on my own. So I can lead, but I really just like being a passenger princess, really. So I'm happy for someone to do the hard bit, go up the scary bit, and I just follow along. As long as there's not a traverse in mind, then it's usually a good time.
Yeah.
So.
And you had obviously, you just mentioned the courses.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in courses because I think you just get so much value in such a condensed period of time. How, would you recommend courses to beginners?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I did the learn to lead sport, learn to lead trad, climbers self-rescue. I've done abseiling courses, all through the Australian School of Mountaineering, which was really fantastic. And I just learnt so much that has become really valuable now. I think what I found as well with that is I've gotten myself into situations sometimes where I have had to self-rescue. The other day even, I was wrapping down a climb and somehow a knot had formed in the rope and got snagged up into my ATC. And there I am hanging in space, the sun's setting, I'm wanting to get out of there. And get down onto the ground. I'm already exhausted. I've been photographing a climber and went climbing earlier that day. And I had to use some of those skills that I'd learnt through these courses in order to get myself out of that situation. So had to get myself off belay pretty much while hanging in space. So I had to get onto ascenders, get my weight off that, get that undone, and then undo the rope, get myself back on belay, and then safely get to the ground. And I think in those moments, that sounds very straightforward, but when you're absolutely exhausted, the sun's setting, you're on a time clock before you're hanging in there in the dark. It can be really stressful, and if you haven't done that kind of training, it could be a worse situation, I suppose. For me, it was just me being exhausted by the end of it, and
ready for the pub.
Yeah, definitely ready for. No, I think more of a nap or something by the end of it. I got back to the car and I was just, I was pretty dead. But if I hadn't have had that proper training, I think it would have been a real panic kind of moment. Whereas I knew what to do. It wasn't as straightforward because nothing ever is when you're in a situation like that. I can tell you the steps, but in order to execute it, it's still a bit of stuffing around, trying to get your weight off things and everything. But in the end, I got down safely. And without training, I don't think that would have necessarily happened.
I mean, that, if you hadn't done the training, all of a sudden could be a call to SES.
Exactly. Like, yeah, like any beginner climber who got themselves stuck in that situation, and maybe they didn't have a prusik with them, or they didn't have an ascender, or they had that stuff but they didn't know how to use it. It would have been potentially a call to a rescue service.
Yeah. And then do you practice those skills? Like, you've done the course, and then in your own time, do you implement, okay, I'm going to actually practice self-rescue today?
I wouldn't say I've really practiced the self-rescue stuff. I tend to get myself in situations and then have to perform them anyway. But in terms of ascending ropes and everything, there's been times where I've like thrown ropes over trees and I've just practiced going up and down a tree just to really get myself like refined on ascending ropes. And
are you using Prosics to ascend those?
Absolutely not. I will use mechanical ascenders. I actually really want the drill ascender just so I can my whole way up. I'd love to be bougie, but no, at the moment I'm on mechanical ascenders. I can do the Prusicking, but I do like to.
Shit, that's tiring.
Yeah, I like a mechanical ascender with a pulley. That's my friend.
Look, I'm very glad to have done some training of ascending a rope using Prosics because I know how to do it. And that was out of a crevasse in New Zealand. So glad to not have to do that very often though. Holy shit. That is not ideal.
It's not a good time.
It's not a good time.
No.
It's not a good time. But knowing how to be able to do it.
It's a key skill.
Yeah. And it's not as straightforward as you just climb the rope.
Yeah.
Very impressed if someone's climbing ropes just as they go. And then how much of this have you been able to learn and then implement with your photography as well? So obviously if you're capturing a climber, you're stopping halfway up or down a rope, you're tying yourself off the situation. So what sort of skills do you think you've then needed to learn and adapt in your climbing to then be able to be a photographer on the rock?
I think the number one skill was the abseiling.
Yeah.
And also ascending. So the first skill would be to be able to create safe anchors and be able to get off the top of like down a climb if you're approaching it from the top. And then also, basically anchors would be the number one thing, how to do a good anchor, how to safely abseil down a climb. And you want to be on the right devices. You want to be able to make yourself safe so you can sit in a situation like where you're photographing a climber for one part, and then you also want to be able to quickly adapt and to get onto ascension so that when the climber gets up to you, if you want to get up higher, you're not slowing that climber down as well. So so it would be anchors, abseiling, and ascending would be your major things. And then you absolutely want that rope rescue skills because there have been many times where things just don't necessarily go to plan. There could be something going weird with the gear or weird with the ropes, or you get yourself all tangled up. And if you don't do things right, you want to be able to get yourself out of a situation. I think the very first time I tried to be a climbing photographer, I just finished a abseiling course, but I hadn't yet done much ascending. And I had like a crash course with a guide friend, but like when I say crash course, I mean like a 5-minute conversation. And then I decided to get out there and try and photograph some climbers out in the Blue Mountains. We were at Pierce's Pass and I'd set up my my anchor at the top, and even that I was nervous about because I was still so fresh. So I got the climbers to check my anchor and they said, yep, that's good. And I had some rope pro over to make sure that like when I went over the edge, it was fine. But I had 2 cameras strapped to me and so I had a lot of weight hanging off me, and I'm going off this very sheer edge on a, at the time, my only static rope was a canyoning rope. So it was quite thin and I was on a gree-gree, and the drop was about 100 meters. And the rope was roughly like 60 meters. So the plan was to never touch the ground. So I did the right thing. I tied the knots in the bottom of the rope and everything. And then the plan was just to ascend back out. But yeah, I was just not prepared to do it correctly. And the rope was very thin. It was sliding through the gree-gree. And I was a little bit worried about that. So I put myself on a prusik on a gree, and I got a lot of shit for that, but it actually did save me. So, but I ended up wrapping down, and I was hanging in space, basically spinning in circles. And the carabiner had cross-loaded on the gree, and just everything just was wrong. And so I tried to put myself on ascenders. At that time, I wasn't using a pulley, so it was very manual. And I ended up in a really shit situation. I was basically stuck hanging in space, and I couldn't go up, I couldn't go down. And the climber that I was meant to photograph, thankfully, was part of like he does like IRADA kind of rope access work.
Right.
And so he had to ascend his static rope, and then was basically level with me, and I reckon he was about like 4 meters away or something like that. So he couldn't reach me. So he's throwing the tail of his rope over to me.
Wow.
And then like I finally catch it and then pull him in. And then he had to basically like bear hug me with his legs and re-rig my entire setup so that I could get back up to the top. And that was a massive learning curve.
Wow.
Like it was incredibly embarrassing, but also like you just don't know what you don't know until you're in that situation. So after that, I learned a lot, and I got myself a thicker rope, like a proper rope, and I switched over the carabiner I was using for my gree so it can no longer cross load, and then I got proper training and learned how to use a pulley, and now I'm good. But yeah, that one learning curve, I walked into the Australian School of Mountaineering, where I had a whole bunch of mates, and I told them what happened, and I copped a lot of shit. So yeah, they definitely enjoyed the story.
Yep.
But yeah.
Wow. So
Yep.
it was that moment where you're hanging off.
I thought I was going to need like an SES rescue. I thought that I was going to be,
That prompted you to learn a bit more.
I think so. It was, like I was completely safe. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going up or down. So I was safe the whole time. In fact, I was probably too safe, and maybe that was the reason why I was stuck. But there was some hikers that actually took a photo, and it's the blurriest photo you'll ever see on their phone, but it's me dangling in space with my mate ascending up to the other rope to try and get to me. And yeah.
They've just seen these two climbers on the edge of this cliff.
Oh, they saw one idiot and somebody else trying to rescue them.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I mean, that is definitely an incentive to go and actually learn how to do that properly.
Absolutely.
God. And like, obviously, you've spoken about different skills you've needed, gear that you've needed.
Yeah.
You know, what else do you think a beginner getting into climbing photography would need? You know, even the way, like, how do you mount your cameras when you're there, or do you just use a strap, or?
So for me, I've got like some slings that I've rigged together so that it's basically like a chest harness for my camera.
Yeah.
And then I've got self-locking carabiners so that it can't come off the actual camera strap and everything. But I think I could actually improve that. I do want to actually design a purposeful piece of equipment that can then also stow the camera, so that when I'm moving off the rocks or around the edges and stuff, that I'm not just having a camera swinging everywhere. So I think that needs improvement for sure. Yeah, I think to be a good climbing photographer, you need to be a climber yourself to start with. And then on top of that, you need to have the skills to be able to ascend abseil before even thinking about the camera work. But yeah, so for me, like I was like obviously a photographer first in my career, and then I was also a climber. So it was two different worlds. And then I decided to put them together. But I think the major skill is that you do need to be able to climb. There are going to be times where you need to scramble up something, or you do need to actually climb up to a different set of anchors in order to set something up. And if you can't climb, then it does sort of set you back a little bit. There are times where you're going to be at a crag where you can't get up anything. And if you can't wrap in, then you also have to kind of sweet talk another climber to get up there and put your rope up on the rings. And sometimes they're nice enough to do so. But being a climber yourself is definitely a huge advantage, and also just understanding the movement that a climber will do does help for the angles of how you would shoot something and how you would go about capturing the shot.
Yeah. I guess, understanding the craft of anything then helps capture an image and like think about how that composition is going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so what sort of photography work were you doing prior to this? Were you already in the outdoors, or what led you here?
It's kind of funny. I really wasn't. So I was like on weekends and stuff going out and photographing waterfalls and like nature and everything. So I did like landscape photography and everything. But what I was doing for my job was kindergarten and childcare photography. So I was following little kids around and photographing them on their little rock walls inside the kindergarten and doing a bit of painting and that sort of stuff. But what that job kind of gave me was it gave me a lot of skills in portraiture, and it also moving objects. Like 4-year-olds, they're not sitting still. So, and neither is a climber, and not unless they're having a bad time. Yeah, so that did kind of give me those skills as well. And then I think with my photography, landscape also does play a big part in some of the photos that I try to capture with the climbers. I think about the line that I'm capturing. I think about the background of the climb, not just the climber on the wall. And I think that helps.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because there are so many aspects of like your technical ability as a photographer that go into the things you mentioned, just the motion within a photo, understanding how someone's moving and then how that translates through a photo as well. It's skills that you can develop obviously before you get into the climbing world of it.
Definitely. Yeah. I think as well, like when you're looking at a shot, not every shot needs to be taken in the same way. Like sometimes you might want to be shooting directly down the line and shooting like above the climber, and sometimes you want to be across, and so that you can get a really cool background as well in the shot, or so that you can capture that kind of movement in a way. Every shot is different, and you've kind of got to have the eye for it as well to be able to do that.
Yeah. And would you say you typically, so if you're organizing a shoot, are you typically looking for locations that you can rappel into, or would you climb up and ascend first?
I think it really just depends. It depends on what the line is and what the options are. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily in particular looking for something. Usually I'm hanging out with a climber and they're talking about a cool climb that they're doing, and I'm like, hey, can I come along? And I mean, some of my most successful shoots have just been like off the cuff, like, oh, that looks cool. Can I come and photograph it? And then that's what's happened. In fact, my first front cover for Vertical Life was Ollie Schmidt on Lightweight Baby at Mount Arapiles. And I'd rocked up at the crag late in the afternoon and I saw Ollie walking through camp, and I said hi to him and I said, hey, when are you getting back on your project? And he goes, oh, in about an hour. And I'm like, oh, sweet, can I come along? He goes, yeah, no worries. And so it had been a really crappy day. Like it was kind of like overcast. It had been raining, and I had to like grab all my camera gear, and I had to climb up Ali's chains, which is in the wet. It's pretty sketchy. Like, thankfully, like the chains yourself, you can clip in and stuff. But I got up there and I got to the climb and I scrambled up onto this rock and I photographed his first burn on one angle. And then I came down and I was like looking around and I was like, oh, this looks like a really cool angle. And so he's having a bit of a rest and I'm looking out, and the sun's come through and it's got this beautiful like light, and you can see the grampians in the background. And I was like, this is going to be an amazing shot. And then by the time he was getting back on the climb, we had all of these storm clouds rolling in. Like the sky was about to open up. And I was like, oh, well, I guess we're going for a moody shot then. And he got on and he got the send. And we weren't expecting it. Like he'd been projecting it for a little while at that point. And I was more just trying to get some cool photos. And I captured it on the send with the storm clouds in the background. And then pretty much like the minute he came off that climb, the sky just opened up and poured down. And yeah, it was just a really cool experience. And already I was meant to have the front cover for Vertical Life in that issue. And it was another shot of Ollie, but I never felt like it was good enough to be the front cover. And then as soon as we got that shot, I'm like, that's it, that's our front cover. And I had to call up the graphic designer at the time and say, I'm really sorry, I know that you've already designed the front cover, but we're changing it. And so, that's what happened. We changed the cover and we've got this really cool shot of Ollie on Lightweight Baby. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And it just so happened. It wasn't a planned shoot. It was just spur of the moment.
Yeah. And then the next day I ended up his belayer out in the Grampians, and he got another send on his second 34. So, it was a cool weekend.
Yeah, ripper. Yeah. And then you've just met all these people by showing up to Crags.
Pretty much. I just rock up at the Crag and I introduce myself, I say hi and just get to know the climbers, and then, they'll tell you about something cool that they're doing and you end up going along and getting some cool photos, getting great stories, and Have
you always been a people person? And willing to put yourself out there and talk to strangers in this manner?
I'd say no.
Yeah.
No, I actually, before I started climbing, I was always friendly and always willing to talk to people, but I think I suffered from a lot of social anxiety, and kind of putting myself out there, walking towards a group of complete strangers to say, hey guys, I'm Claire. I would not have done that in the past. And I think I had all of this social anxiety with lots of things in life. And then I started climbing. And then I think the fear of actually dying kind of started to outweigh the fear of nothing, really.
Social rejection.
Yeah, pretty much. You start climbing and you realize there's actual things to be scared of, oh shit, if I don't place this piece of gear right, I could deck. And then so I think your instincts change and you start to fear things that'll actually be a threat to you, and people not being very nice to you if you go and approach them, you're like, okay, well, whatever, and then you move on, you go meet another group of people, and then usually they're awesome. So
and the climbing community is pretty good.
The climbing community is great, and I think that's why I fell in love with climbing itself, is because the community was so welcoming, so encouraging, and they just had a really great kind of vibe. Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of the greatest things I think there is for most people, nerves in approaching people or making new friendships, or it can be quite a difficult thing.
Yeah.
But as you meet more people, and you're absolutely right, you do things that truly have fear involved, real fear, then you start to realize actually it's not so bad.
Well, I think with now, the way I look at things is that if you want to go and meet these people, or you want to go for that job or something like that, you're rejected before you even go and approach them, because currently you're in the no state. You're already rejected before you ask the question. So the only thing you've got to do is try and turn what is currently a no into a yes. So when you go up to someone, you say, hey, I want this job. It's it's a no before you ask the question, because they don't know that there's a question there.
That's a great way to look at it.
It's a weird way to look at it, but
yeah, absolutely. I'm a massive believer in just asking, because what's the worst that can happen? Literally, what they say no.
They say no, and then you're like, okay, well,
nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. I'm still rejected. So, you just ask the question, and sometimes it gets you somewhere, and sometimes it doesn't. But you don't know until you ask the question.
And then, you just spoke about having your first cover on Vertical Life magazine.
Yeah.
Is that how that happened? Did you reach out one day saying, hey, I'd love to put my photos in? Or how did this come about?
I was working for the Australian School of Mountaineering. I had come up from Melbourne to work as a photographer for them, and they were working on a project called the Australian Climbing Handbook, and I was to be the lead photographer on this task. And we wanted to keep it hush-hush. So we would go around to the crag, and some days we were like, oh, we're just photographing for the ASM website. And then other days, oh, we're photographing for Climb Fit because they're associated with the company. And then there was other days where we were saying we're photographing for Vertical Life. And I wasn't photographing for Vertical Life. I wasn't ever published in Vertical Life. And I was like, this seems really wrong. I feel like I should get published in Vertical Life so that at least I'm not completely lying. So yeah, I contacted Wendy, the editor, and I said, hey, like, I want to get some photos published. Here's like a few options. And she picked one. And yeah, so I got a call at one point, and they like, yeah, we're putting a half-page photo in the gallery section. And for me, that was just amazing. I was super excited. Yeah, and then from there on, I just kept submitting, and so I would get like another photo published, and I realized that pretty quickly, if I didn't have an article associated with a photo, it was going to be harder to get my work out there. So I just started writing articles to go with the photos, and then yeah, next thing I know, I'm the assistant editor, and then from assistant editor onto editor.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was that a conscious pursuit, or have you sort of just found your way here?
I don't think it was ever a plan. I never thought like people like go around calling me a journalist now, and I'm like, dude, like I'm a photographer who just talks about climbing and stuff. So I don't know, like I suppose now I am a writer, I am a journalist in a sense. But yeah, it was never a path that I had planned for myself. It was just sort of a passion for climbing, and it got me there. So yeah.
And here you are.
Here I am.
And for anyone that maybe that is the pursuit they want to undergo, you know, what sort of advice would you give to someone that's trying to get into, say, more of a photojournalism or journalism space within the outdoors?
Send me an email. I need some content. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the thing is if they send me an email and they say, hey, Claire, I've got a pitch for an idea for a story. And then if it sounds good, then I'll work with them. And I don't really care if they're not a professional writer. I think that some of the best climbing stories don't need to be super polished. I think it's more about the personality of the person telling the story. And I hate the idea of like using AI to write your stories, because it just strips all of the writing of any personality, and it just almost seems like robotic. Whereas I prefer to have like people to have their lingo in the articles and talk the way that like write the way they talk in a way, so that when you're reading the article, you can really connect with the writer. But yeah, I don't think they need to have like some serious background in it. I think you can learn along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's, you know, like you said, you know, it's not a ambition that you're like, I want to be published in a magazine, or maybe not at the start.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a whole nother aspect of the outdoor industry that is out there. There are actually so many different spaces within the outdoor industry that,
of course,
you just perhaps wouldn't think about without somewhat being involved within the realm. I mean, I think people think initially athlete.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I can make it in an outdoor space.
Yeah.
No, photographer, journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like people who are making like just general content, podcasts are a new way of doing things. There's
here we are.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many options, and also guiding. Like if you're into the outdoors, and if you want to do like climbing guiding, you can go out and get qualifications, and even IRATA, so rope access jobs and everything. So arborist, that sort of thing, anything that involves ropes really.
There's actually a lot of jobs out there
that
involve ropes.
Yeah.
Speaking of outdoor podcasts and being in the outdoor space, Cam Bostock is a really large online influence. He does through hiking. That's his big thing. He did the TA initially. I think that was his first through hike. If not, the Bibbleman might have been his first. Are you familiar with many through hikes? No. So the Bibbleman takes most people about a month, and it's in WA. It's one of the biggest through hikes in Australia. And I believe he'd done that. And then the Tiaroa, probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but that's the entire length of New Zealand. And that's where he really blew up as a online influence. He started posting like daily vlogs, and he was sort of probably one of the first people that started posting these daily vlogs. But he does a podcast called The Life Outside, and I've listened to his, and he initially wanted to do them outside in this sort of manner. And there is actually difficulties in doing that, as we've established with lighting and sound and things like that. So
I mean, but it's more relaxed, I reckon. And I mean, a studio, that's so boring.
I know.
Yeah.
We're people that like to be outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Just bring the gear out here.
Get out in nature. We should have just brought a couple of drinks and...
A couple of drinks. We could have actually just rappelled down the crag.
We should have. Yeah.
And just hung out.
I mean, maybe not at Frog. Rappelling off that is quite sketchy.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very sketchy. Yeah, a lot of rock fall there. It's not advised.
Dead tree anchors.
Yeah, well,
Awesome.
not dead tree anchors, but there's a lot of dead trees on the ground, a lot of debris, a lot of rock. So it's definitely not a place where you want to be rapping off the top unless you're kind of approaching it after hours when the climbers are not in the space below.
Yeah,
it's just a bit sketchy here. But
I think that could actually be really cool to do.
But it would be cool to
More
do a
involved.
hanging podcast. That'd be a bit of fun.
Maybe I'll hit you up and we'll have to coordinate.
Yeah, maybe in the Blue Mountains where the walls are a bit flatter and the approach is a bit easier. Yeah, maybe we'll go back to Pierce's Pass and I'll get you on a canyoning rope.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
Yeah, I'll
And
show
then
you what not to do.
show me what not to do. They say to learn knots.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a knot that I
Yeah.
want to know not to
Yeah,
do.
don't not do that.
Do not do that. And I guess for anyone else that really wants to, I guess, advance their skills in outdoor photography, what would be your 3 tips for a beginner?
Ooh, I think lighting, angles, and skills. So
Can you elaborate on skills?
yes, I can. I think I should elaborate on all of it.
Yeah.
So lighting, I think you want to think about where your shadows are going to be in the image. You want to be able to think about what is going to be the best lighting to be hitting the climber. So that might be the golden hour. It might be making sure that the entire thing is in shade at the time. Sometimes full sun might be the way you want to go. It just depends on what kind of result you want. But lighting is definitely something that you want to think about before getting on a rope, and especially if you're ascending a rope in the full sun. It's not necessarily a good time. So yeah, to think about that would be one thing. What were my other points?
Lighting, angles.
Angles. Yeah. So for angles, I think a lot of climbing photographers initially think just that straight downward angle is a great one, but I would argue that you don't necessarily always see the line of what the climber is doing, and you don't always see the movement. You see the steepness, but it doesn't always give you the best shot. Sometimes shooting across is a great one because then you've got a background sometimes in the image, and then you've also got potentially the line of whatever the climber is getting on. And you also want to really think about their movement or their body movement so that you can get some of their face within the photo. I think that makes people connect better with an image if you can see the face of the climber. Yeah. And then skills is just basically the same stuff that we've gone through is abseiling, anchors, and ascending. How to get yourself into that position, and also just skills on camera, like how to do the right kind of settings to achieve what you're trying to do. Yeah.
And so, I mean, things that we touched on earlier, where you started with landscape photography and things as well for your first outdoors. Is that what you would suggest people do to practice? If they're not able to be out there climbing or capturing climbers, where would you say they could develop those skills?
Yeah, I mean, if it's photography skills that they're trying to achieve, I would achieve portraiture skills, photographing faces and people, and then also, getting out there for landscapes and playing with the lighting, and also seeing different times of day and how it captures different things so that you can figure out how shadows work and what's going to work best for when you do actually have a climber on a wall.
Yeah, I mean, I assume you don't want to get out there, set everything up, and then realize, wait, we can't see anything.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you could have this big shadow across, or like a really, really harsh line that just destroys the image. So I think lighting is probably one of the most important things to think about when going out there and shooting. A full-blown sun can really destroy an image, but if it's golden light hitting the rock and it's turning it bright orange, that's even like, it's amazing. So, but you've just got to make sure you time it well.
Do you have a favorite photo? Or was it this one you spoke about with Ollie, the first one that made it to the cover? Or
so my favorite photo would probably be Danny Nickerton on Punks in the Gym at Mount Arapiles. I photographed him, I think, 4 times on that climb from like 3 different angles. So I went down from the bottom of the gully shooting upwards one day. I did directly behind it just to show the body movement of like the back muscles. And then I shot across like kind of down the gully for that one as well, looking down onto him. And there was just the way he moved on the rock as well was just incredible to watch. And there's 2 shots that I captured that I just absolutely love looking at every time. And I just really, really just love looking at them. It's just, I don't know, there's something about them.
Was it part of the journey that you had done so
I
much
think
to
so,
get that
yeah,
as
because
well?
like he'd become a friend in that time as well, and like I was really like invested in like wanting him to get the send. I think that's kind of the fun thing is like when you are holding a camera up and somebody is really trying to get that tick, you're really gunning for them, and like you're almost like you're holding the camera and you're like, go, come on, and like you're secretly like quietly cheering them on, hoping that they're going to get it.
All that time.
Yeah, and when they do and you've actually captured it as well, it's an even more rewarding feeling. So, yeah.
So cool. I mean, yeah, there's shots that I'm definitely most proud of as well. And sometimes they're not even maybe what would be considered the best photo, but just you're like, I know what I had to deal with to get that.
Yeah.
Shot. And it just hits that little bit better where you're like, oh yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
Rough to get that.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the first articles I did for Vertical Life was how I got the shot. And it was, I can't even remember the name of the climb, but I had to do this like sketchy traverse on a rope that was just kind of like tattered onto the top of the climb, and to get onto the top of the anchors to wrap in. And I was so scared just doing that little traverse, and I've got this camera dangling off me, smacking on the rock, and I was just very uncomfortable. And then finally got on the line, and in order to like capture the dyno shot that we were trying to achieve, I basically had to like almost like be doing the splits on the wall so that he was almost dynoing between my legs so that I could then like capture directly downwards. And it was just like, yeah, it was a crazy kind of day, but it was fun.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but sometimes you get yourself in really awkward positions and to try and get that shot from the angle that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that for everything, but yeah.
So very intentional with your shooting when you're out there setting them
I
up.
try to think about what it is that I want to achieve before I get on the line, and what's the most important movement of the climb, like whether it's the crux or there's like a really cool position that they get themselves in, and I try to think about how I want to capture that part first, and if I can get more of the climb on top of that, that's great, but I make sure I get that one part that I'm really aiming for.
Yeah, I guess again comes back to getting out there and making sure you set up exactly what you need, not getting there and it's awful lighting, whatever it be.
Yeah.
And again, for you now, from a photography standpoint and a progression standpoint, you know, like what's next for you? Like what else are you trying to get to?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, with Vertical Life, I really want to make that do well. Yeah. I really want to walk away from that in the future, really proud of what I've achieved. And I think the way to do that is to reflect the climbing community in a way that really is quite genuine. I want to be able to share the stories of the little guy who no one knows, but is doing really incredible things. I want the young guns, getting some time in the spotlight. And I think I want to make it a little bit more of like a community magazine as well. Like I want you to open it and I want you to see your friend and go, oh, wow, that's so-and-so. I know them from here, and get excited to see it. And then also get really, I don't know, like, how would I put it? I want you to be inspired when you're reading it. And I want it to also be a thing where you're sitting around a campfire one night and you're like, did you read this article of this epic that this person had? And like have a really good laugh and everything. Like I want it to give emotions. I want you to feel emotions when you're reading the magazine. And so I'm hoping that by traveling around the country and meeting as many climbers as I can, that I can find those stories that are worth sharing, and hopefully have more people send some stuff in as well would help. So I think for Vertical Life, that's the direction where I want to go with that. On the side for me, I think I do intend on getting into more video content. Doing interviews with people who inspire me and climbers that would inspire the community. So that's another direction. Maybe another book.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of up in the air at the moment. I've had just like this new achievement that's coming out, and so I'm sort of in celebration mode for that. And after that, we'll see.
And so what is this book? So you told me earlier you've spent quite a few years developing this.
Yeah, so the Australian School of Mountaineering, they've written a book which is called the Australian Climbing Handbook. And it's basically like a Bible on how to climb. So basically from the beginner's side of things where you're putting on a harness through to how to tie knots, how to ascend a rope, that sort of thing. So it's going to be a really good key piece of information to help climbers and assist them with their skill sets. And I was the lead photographer on that project. So I came into that about 3 years ago. And I photographed as much as I could. We did have a couple of other photographers who helped us out along the way because I wasn't always available. But yeah, it's been a really rewarding experience. And after 3 years, I'm really, really glad for it to be coming out. So it's coming out in September. And it should be good. Hopefully the climbing community likes it. But we didn't have a climbing specific handbook for a really long time here in Australia. Overseas, there's been other companies who have created some, but there hasn't been an Australian one for a very long time. So it's past time.
And it's coming out in September.
And so Brendan Flanagan and Marty Middlebrook, myself, and Vladdy is our illustrator. We've all kind of worked together on it and produced something really that we're pretty proud of, and hopefully everyone else likes it.
For anyone interested in getting their hands on a copy of this book, where can they go to find
that? So we're published through Woodslane Publishing, but we are trying to get it into as many bookshops and climbing gyms around the country. You'll hopefully find it in your local climbing gym. But if not, it's available at Dimmicks, it's available Booktopia, and obviously the Woodslane website.
Great, cool. And then for any aspiring journalists in the rock climbing space, where can they go to contact you to submit?
So Claire at verticallifemag.com. They just send me an email. I'm happy to hear from them. I'm liking when people get in contact with me and give me a pitch. And even photographers as well, if they're trying to get out there and get their name out there, I'm absolutely happy to try and support them. And same for writers. Like if the content isn't quite where it's meant to be, I can definitely help give some guidance and show them how that they can improve so that we can get them there. So I don't mind helping out the little guy. Someone did that for me once. So I definitely want to help them too.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of a reward for anyone that listens to all the way through the podcast. Get that tidbit of info there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Claire, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been great talking to you, hearing your wisdom and insights on how to be a rock climber and an outdoor photographer and journalist.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get more people out on the rock and enjoying it, and maybe we should get you out on a climb soon.
Yeah, get me out there.
Yeah.
Teach me the do nots.
Yeah, the do nots.
In the blueies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know how to wrap up a podcast.
That'll do.
That'll do.
How do we wrap up this podcast? I don't know. I guess it's this way.